Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Daryl Huff from Hawaii News Now, your host for tonight's show. The path toward academic success is not a one-size-fits-all journey, especially for students from Hawaii's at-risk communities. Educational innovators are developing out-of-the-box programs that aim to give all students hope for a better future. Tonight on Insights, how are innovators bringing new opportunities to Hawaii students? We want to hear from you, so join the conversation by calling 973-1000 if you live on Oahu, or 800-238-4847 if you're calling from a neighbor island. You can watch Insights streamed live at pbshawaii.org, click on the title of tonight's show, or you can find us on Twitter at PBS Hawaii. Now to our panel. Matthew Nagato is the writer, director, producer of the film Ike, Knowledge is Everywhere. He also wrote, directed, and produced the 2013 documentary Ola, Health is Everything. Outside of filmmaking, Mr. Nagato is the communications director for the Hawaii Primary Care Association. HPCA represents Hawaii Community Healthcare Centers and was also the primary supporter of Mr. Nagato's films. Keith Hayashi is the principal of Waipahu High School and was featured in Ike. He was recently named the 2015 High School Principal of the Year by the Hawaii Association of Secondary School Administrators. Mr. Hayashi has focused many of his school's resources on preparing students for college careers, and Waipahu High School is one of the top 5 schools in Hawaii that made the biggest gains in number of high school students taking college credit courses at the University of Hawaii. Candy Suiso is the co-founder and program director for Sea Rider Productions, an elective multimedia program based at Waianae High School. The program integrates journalism, video production, photography, graphic arts, and animation. Its mission is to provide students with the skills, attitudes, and knowledge necessary for success. A Waianae High School alumnus herself, Ms. Suiso founded the program in 1993, and today it serves 300 students with 8 full-time teachers. And Zachary Grace is a 2010 Farrington High School graduate who found a pathway to success through the Lawakua Kaju Kembo Club, the brainchild of instructor Matt Levi. The program uses martial arts to teach confidence, coordination, structure, and discipline in youth, many of whom live in public housing projects. After graduation from Farrington, Zachary received a full scholarship to Chaminade University, and he's currently applying to the University of Hawaii Medical School, and we're sure he will get in. Let me start with filmmaker Matt Nagato. What are your hopes for what will happen when people see this film about these, very inspiring young people and very inspiring educators?
I mean, I think you just said it. My hope is that we change the conversation about education in Hawaii and inspire people to go out there in their own communities and create new programs and partnerships and collaborations around giving people increase access to educational opportunities. Because although Ike is a film about education, when you sort of step back and look on it more from a systems level, this film and the first film as well are really about cultivating communities that work together. And I think if we can change these conversations and move people away from conflicts around some of these challenging social issues, then the things that we saw in the film will be commonplace and not something that's a revelation to people.
Well, the film is the story and this message is really told through individual people. There's hardly any narration. There's a lot of people talking about themselves. What do you think are the 2 or 3 big points people will take away from the people you featured in this film?
That despite the adversities that these people face from very challenged communities, that there is hope out there, that these people who I think by all rights would have every reason to not have hope, these kids have a lot of hope. And I think the second even more important thing is because of the opportunities that they've been given, they feel a sense of responsibility to give back, that it's not what can I take, but it's what can I give. And I think the largest takeaway really is about public and private partnerships, because in every one of these stories you had a public entity and a private entity deciding that we're not going to keep fighting about whatever these issues are, but we're going to do what's best for the population that we're serving.
Let me switch to Principal Keith Hayashi from Waipahu. What do you see as the film's most important message? What were your takeaways from watching it?
I would agree with Matt that our students come to us with different challenges, and they're in various situations, and I think the more opportunities that we can give them and the experiences that we can give them, will inspire each student to try their best. And I'm hoping that we'll continue to get support from industries, from businesses, from the community, so that we can continue to provide these kinds of different opportunities for students.
Candy, Suiso, your program at Hawaiiʻi is renowned. I mean, I'm in the television business. We have many of your graduates working at Hawaii News now, I'm quite proud to say. Your program wasn't one of the ones that was featured, but can you tell me about some of the features of your program that kind of match the mold there?
Mm-hmm. I think the program echoes everything that that you heard from each of these inspiring students and young adults that were featured there. They were given an opportunity. Our students are given opportunity. They take on the challenges. They don't let their background hold them back, and they want to learn. And we give them the tools. Like each of the people featured, they were each given an opportunity or some kind of a tool, and they ran with it. And and in return now they're going to pay it forward. As a couple of people said, we're going to give back now. We want to, we were given an opportunity, and we want to give back now, and that's what we're finding out, I think, in each of our communities.
What is it that you find at your program that has worked to get students excited about learning something?
We make learning fun. We make learning relevant, and it's technology. A lot of it is technology, but it's also a very driven staff that we have there. It's teacher driven, and they come in and they learn from teachers that are really dedicated.
I'm sure that excitement in the teachers carries to the kids. Zachary, Grace, tell us a little bit about your journey now. Congratulations on your success, by the way. And tell me, when you were in middle school, and you told me that you lived in Eva for a while, when you first came to Farrington, what were your prospects in your own mind for yourself?
Well, when I first started at Farrington, it was really kind of rough, actually, because I come into this new school. Everyone else had been, middle school friends. They've all been friends before, and I'm brand new to this new school, thrown in, and it's one of the biggest schools on the island. And so it was a very different experience. It was a good thing that I found Lavakua, though. The Lavakua program kind of just...
How did it work? How does that program work?
And so we're based right in KPT, Kuhio Park Terrace, the biggest housing project, on the island. And so the program is open and free to anybody who lives in or around the area. And so it really taking these at-risk kids and showing them really hope, right? That there is a possibility for college. With discipline and proper training, you can make it out there.
And then, so what moment did you have, Candy Suiso talked about this, where you realized that you could succeed in college? What was that like, and what did it really take for you to develop that confidence?
Well, I would say it's probably in my sophomore year in high school. I was at Farrington, and to get into the academy that I was in, which was the Health Academy, you have to apply. There's not everyone gets in, and so and when I did get in, I knew that was kind of the area. And then as I learned through the Health Academy, I really got to know some new medical terms, and I learned a lot of new information that was really interesting to me. And so that's kind of
the subject matter just got you.
Yeah.
And then how did you know that you could succeed in college? I mean, did you feel it? Did you feel like you could do that for sure?
Well, at first, as a junior in high school or sophomore in high school, I really didn't think college would be possible, because then I hadn't known that I would be scholared to go to college. And so at that time, I was thinking, how am I even going to pay for this? You'd look at these prices, and they're $20,000 a semester, $25,000 a semester.
It just sounds crazy,
right?
Impossible.
And so finding out that I had gotten that scholarship to Chaminade, really then I knew there's no excuse now. it's paid for. You can do it, right?
Let me move on just to the big picture for a moment. Matthew, I know that you work hard on your projects and you do a lot of research. And do we have a problem in Hawaii? We did some quick research, and we find that across the board in Hawaii, maybe 54, 55, 56% are going to college out of public school, versus 10% more, 66% on the mainland. Is that a problem? Is that sort of what you'd like to see change?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things that, I think divides our communities about these kinds of issues is the fact that, we know empirically, we know from the data, the value of people graduating from high school, and maybe not necessarily going to college, but having some kind of post-high school education. And that's what makes some of the things that Keith and folks at some of the other high schools are doing so valuable, is because it's addressing this key benchmark of getting out of, first of all, graduating from high school, and then going on and either developing a skill or getting a degree that allows you to have some kind of opportunity for success later on in life.
Keith Hayashi, what do you think has kept Hawaii at this level? What's the challenge here?
Well, I think it is the opportunities for students, and I think there are many schools in Hawaii, in the public schools, high schools that are providing engaging students in early college, in Running Start, in Jump Start, different kinds of opportunities for students to take college classes while they're still in high school. We're very, very fortunate to be the recipients of a McInerney grant that, so we're in early college high school, where professors from West Oahu and Leeward Community College come to the high school after school, and our students take college courses.
What barrier, let me ask you, sorry to interrupt, but what barrier does succeeding in a college course switch off in a student's mind that makes them want to know that they can succeed? Is that really the key thing, is the student's confidence?
I think it's a major component. We have to give the kids the opportunity to engage in these classes. Because for some of them, it's foreign to them. They may be the first in their families to go to college, and just to have that experience in the class, to engage the professors, and at the end of the course, they'll say, I can do this. I just need the support to go ahead and get it done. So we have students who are taking multiple courses at school, at high school. We even have freshmen in early college courses that are taking English 100, History 151. I think the earlier we can get them engaged in that, we set out their plans for the students, and they can really start to reflect on where they want to go. And there are many high schools engaged in this effort right now, so it's promising.
Zachary, let me ask you a little bit again about, climb into your head a little bit as the most recent graduate. I certainly don't remember. But when, you mentioned cost was a big factor. So when someone took away that factor, all of a sudden you were confident.
Right.
But what other factors do you think keep people from taking seriously the possibility of going to college?
Well, college is a lot about independence, and you no longer have the teacher that reminds you every single day about assignments. You no longer have a rubric to go along with your essay, right? You've kind of got to have a mental rubric of your own. It's not, so that factor also comes in. You've got to be more independent. You've got to be able to support yourself at the same time, right? You're no longer, baby to your parents. You've got to be able to kind of support yourself as well as,
even if the parents don't really recognize that, right? Candy Suiso, in Waianae, there was an interesting piece in the film where there was a mention that it's great to have this program, and they were talking about the Waianae Health Academy in Waianae. Is there a sense at your school that we're isolated, we're far away, it's really hard, and it would be really a long journey to go to college?
Well, I think we definitely are isolated, and it's we're feeling it more and more now, especially with the traffic. So to get even out of the coast, we see, there really are very few jobs on the coast, and so those of us, I'm lucky I work there, but most of the people who do work are driving out of the community, and they're sometimes taking 3 to 4 hours just to get out of the coast. And so that isolation is really felt. So anything that is offered, any opportunity that's offered in the community, it's a bonus, because we don't have to drive, or I don't have to drive. I can work here, or I have this class that's offered here, or I don't have to spend 4 hours of my day in traffic. So there is a sense of isolation along the coast.
Matthew Nagano, in Ike and in your prior film, Ola, you dealt quite a bit with the difference between different communities, and particularly access. Is that something that these programs sort of have in common that you featured in this film?
Yeah, I think every one of the programs is about providing equality of opportunity and equality of access. And the fact that these communities happen to be, like Waianae, areas where they're either isolated or they've been suffering from some kind of economic disadvantage, has been key to the development of the program, but also the success that they've had, because these people in these communities are desperate to succeed. And once given an opportunity like Zach was given, I mean, it's a fish to water.
Yeah, one of the things that was also interesting about it to me was you featured programs that featured adult education and also preschool,
correct,
early education, as well as high school that we're all talking about. And I got a caller from a viewer here, and I want to honor our viewers when they call, from Alan and Manoa. It's not the community, it's parenting. Kids wind up doing what their parents do, and there's no difference between schools such as Waianae or the city schools. Some of what your film highlighted was changing parents' mindset. How big an issue do you think that is? How important do you think that is?
I think it's very important, because I think, particularly in the story about Waianae Health Academy, it's about changing that generational poverty cycle that happens. Teresa, the gal featured in the story, talked about that, about the example that she saw from her parents and wanting to set a better example for her kids. But, to address this issue about communities and communities not being very different, I think one of the things we tried to do with both Ike and Ola was to change the definition of community. Because I think right now, a lot of people think of community as, if you're in my zip code, if you're in 96797, we're part of the same community because we're in Waipahu. But really, I think when you think about the community of Hawaii, these islands, community really is a group of people that have shared values and use those values as a strength to try to overcome some of the challenges that they face together. So it's not just people in Waipahu or people in Waianae or people in Kalihi. We're all part of a singular community, and we all have similar objectives. We want to have, thriving, successful lives.
That's a good segue to Waipahu and Principal Hayashi. And what was interesting about that young lady at your school was I think she was the one that the prospect of spending $60 on taking probably the ACT or something was like, oh, I don't want to even ask my parents for that. And do you get how big a challenge do you have in changing the attitude of parents toward the idea of their kids going to college, particularly going away to school?
Our parents want to support their children, and again, it's providing different experiences for our parents so that they can see what they did. They will also support their students and what their children's passions are about. At Waipahu, we're a small learning communities high school, and we focus on career academies. And so it's about not only getting the students in the academy and get them going in what they're passionate about, whether it be health, business, or public and human services, but it's also about bringing the parents in. And so we do that during registration, during this thing we call CRASH, College Readiness Academic Success Hawaii. It's about bringing the parents and their students in and talking about what their aspirations are, what their dreams are about, and then building a strong partnership to helping them move forward.
It's very interesting. I'm going to remind our viewers now that tonight we're talking about some of the most innovative programs opening doors to academic success for all Hawaii students. Please call, email, or tweet your questions and comments. Call 973-1000 if you're calling from Oahu, and 800-238-4847 if you're calling from a neighbor island. I want to continue on this question, though, about parental involvement. I've gotten a couple of questions about it. And Zach, let me ask you, at KPT, parents, I'm sure, have wonderful aspirations for their children, but have you seen times when parents are saying, college, you're not going to be able to afford college, focus on doing something?
Right, so I actually, I work in the community as well, so I get to work a lot with the youth in that community, and to get parent participation is a tough one, because most of the parents are working, either overnight, they're working 2 or 3 jobs. They're doing a lot to support their children, and
There's a lot of single parents in housing.
Mm-hmm. And so lots of them, and they're usually working minimum wage jobs. A bunch of them are even unemployed, and so it's for those parents to kind of be able to see college in their kids' future means taking some meals from their other kids. That's kind of a tough situation for some, and so that's why, for example, for our program, we try to bridge that gap by providing those tuition-free scholarships and things like that.
Do you think, and let me ask Candy this, because you've seen many students in your years go through the process and head off to school or make those kinds of decisions and dealt with parents, I'm sure. How much is do people have a realistic idea of what college costs? Do they know that probably, given a low income, that they might not have to pay a lot? Or are there costs that we don't know about that are holding parents back, holding families back?
I think it's all of the above. But I really believe the parents don't really, I don't think that they really understand how much college costs. I mean, for many of our parents, they're just trying to survive, live day to day, make ends meet. And to think when their child is born, 18 years from now, we want to send them to school, so we should start saving, is sometimes just beyond their thinking, because they're just really day to day. I think it's key to get the parents involved, though. For a lot of our students, I think probably like Farrington and Waipahu, we have to build that college culture, and part of building that college culture is to get the parents involved and to make them realize, there is so much involved, not just financially, but filling out forms and following through, and it's a lot.
I know, I've just been through it myself. You want to say?
We're getting them involved earlier too. It's not just at the high school, but we're looking at approaching college readiness, career readiness as a complex. So we're having those discussions about college readiness and what it takes, not just at the high school level, but down to the intermediate, middle school, and even at the elementary level, and how we're starting to plan and what do we need to look at.
Do you have a message, though, for a family that really can't afford to spend much money? I mean, are there strategies where their kids can get that college education without it costing half their income?
I think our college counselors do a good job about that, looking at how do we apply for scholarships, looking at different grants, what opportunities are there for our students to take advantage of. But that all takes planning, and so the earlier we can start.
By who, the parents?
By both parents and the school, and the student, in looking at what do I need to do so that by the time I graduate from high school, I'm in a position that I can pursue my post-secondary options.
But I guess what I'm asking is, for example, let's say someone literally, holy cow, my kid's qualified for college, I'm very excited. They're a junior or a senior, and they haven't planned, and they don't have extra income. Can you still go to a community college and then go to a 4-year institution without a big nut?
I think that's what makes what Keith and some of the other schools are doing as far as early college so important, because we're here talking about the cost of college and how it's so exorbitant for some of the families that don't have the resources. But I think if we give them opportunities in high school to be earning college credit, that does significantly reduce the cost of whatever remains of their college education. Because I think one of the folks in the Waipahu segment said it very explicitly, this is going to help my family reduce what they have to do to send me to college, because I'm getting an opportunity to get some of these courses taken care of for free right here in high school.
We did get another call, and I think this is the last issue we'll deal with in terms of the barriers, because I think we've gone through a lot of barriers. I don't want to make this a very depressing show, but how big a role does poverty play in some students' lives, and I imagine in the choice of college? And another figure here, 81% of Kalani High School graduates go to college, and 29% in Nanakuli. What is the impact of the different economic structures on people's, not just their ability to pay, but their even faith or hope that they can even achieve this thing? Let me start with you, Ken.
Well, I guess I want to, again, it's just parents of, families of poverty, they live day to day, literally are living day to day, paycheck to paycheck. And if they have a choice of putting away for college for their child in 4 years or 18 years versus feeding my family tonight or tomorrow, of course they're going to choose the food. So I really believe it's a cycle of, and how do you break that? Education, definitely, we all know it's the key, but it's, families of poverty, it's just not, sadly, it's not a priority for many because they really are just trying to survive.
Let me ask this question. How does it feel for you when you see one of your students overcome all that?
It validates the choice that,
Are you thinking of one or two right now?
Oh, absolutely. I could think of many. And it makes, it makes us proud. It makes us all proud, as educators to say that, we made a difference. We hope we've made a difference in, getting them out of the cycle, giving them hope, and getting them into college. And, many of them are coming back into our community and giving back. They're paying forward, and we're seeing it. So there is hope. It's a struggle, but we're not going to give up. None of us are going to give up. Yeah.
You wanted to weigh in, and I could feel you over here.
Yeah. Well, I agree with, for me, my family spent generations in government housing. My great-grandma lived in government housing. My grandma lived in government housing. My mom as well, and I'm still, for the time being, with mom in government housing. And so it's kind of a cycle, right? It's passed on because we're in this constant struggle to get out of this, but how can you do that when you have to live for today, right?
Well, you breaking the cycle.
Right?
So what does that mean to you in now messaging to all the other families that are close to your family?
Right, so it's really, I see my role as more of a role model, right? I'm setting the path, I'm the trailblazer, right? So the kids in my program at the Lavaco Kajukenbo Club, that's what Matt's always telling me, they're always looking at you, so you're setting the path, so you gotta be the role model, you gotta show them that this is possible.
Speaking of possible, here's an interesting, and I'll put this on you because you're the principal. Where do you see, and I'm also asking this on kind of the DOE, where are we going? Are we going to be able to achieve some of these goals? I think the goal was 71%. That implies an awful lot of change and direction. Do you see that happening in 5, 10, 15 years?
I think that our schools, there's a lot of great things happening in public education and public schools. Our teachers and administrators, the communities are working really hard. We're really fortunate that we had Matt that was able to tell our story at Waipahu, what we're doing. But there's a lot of great, at Waianae, at Sea Rider Productions, great things going on there. But these are not the only two schools that great things are happening.
Well, I'm pleased that my kids go to Kapolei. You see a lot of good things over there.
That's right. And so I think there is a lot of hope. And as we continue to work together and get our schools talking with each other and building those professional learning communities and getting those things going, as we continue to do that, I'm confident we'll get there.
Let me ask this question, and I ask this often of principals who have a lot of success. Is the DOE good at facilitating the movement of good ideas from one school to another, or do you find yourself in the role of, I've got to be an ambassador for these ideas, I've got to carry them out myself?
Well, I think it's both. We have, for the high schools that are smaller learning communities, we have this group of high schools, 15 of us, that we call the Hawai'i Academies. And so we get together monthly and exchange ideas and best practices and successes. And that's kind of a grassroots effort that the high schools have gotten together. There's also different opportunities that the department engages schools in. We have a secondary forum where our high schools and middle schools get together quarterly, and we meet and we talk about best practices and exchange ideas that way. So I think it's both. It's a little bit of both.
How important is it to you, and Kenny, all of you can weigh in on this, that kids come back to the school after they are in college? Is that a really very important thing to happen?
That's huge. We get those students who come back, And they're the success stories, right? And so they give hope to other students that, hey, you know, I've been there, I'm successful now, you know, and so let's talk about what was the plan, what did you do, what did you reflect on, what did you think about? And that paying forward is huge.
Sounds like a great way for all of us who are parents who are asking. I heard one viewer say, what can the public do to get involved to help Hawaii students? That would probably be one way. If you've got a successful graduate who's, go back to your local public school and ask the principal, is there anything I can do? Mm-hmm. And would there be things for them to do in most schools?
Sure. I think, you know, at Waipahu, we're looking at our alumni. We've got 75 years of alumni out there, and we want to re-engage with them, you know, and they are in different businesses and different organizations, and we're looking for opportunities for our students to intern. Not just the college focus, but also the career focus. What opportunities do we have for our students to intern, to be mentored in different businesses? And that's also another real important aspect that we want to focus our students on.
Zachary, when you go back, what kind of questions do you get from the kids in the housing?
A lot of them ask, like, oh, so, like, was college hard? And I say, of course it was. And, you know, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be a walk in the park, but it's you can do it. Like, so recently I've been talking with the AVID teacher at Kalakaua Middle School, which is one of the middle school that feeds into Farrington High School, and he does every year a college and career day where he has people who have been alumni of Kalakaua show, you know, these Kalakaua students that, you know, I started where you're at, and now I'm doing this. Now I'm here, and it really shows them that where they're starting at now is not. It is possible to get out of where they're at.
You know, Matthew, we're talking a little bit about the social aspect of building up these expectations, and one of the programs in there was the Pueo program at Punahou. And, you know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say this, but maybe I should, what the heck, because I'm like, well, thanks, Punahou. But really, that's a very interesting concept that lets offer our resources to create a culture that we have every day at our school for kids who might not share that culture. What did they tell you about the impact of that on individual students?
Well, I think you could see it in the stories that we told. I mean, it transformed these students' lives, and as Carl Ackerman, the director of the program, said, it changed the trajectory of their lives. And when you consider how many hundreds of students have gone through that program, every one of those lives now changed from what it might have been had they not participated in Pueo. And I think for a lot of people, I think the important thing to understand about what Punahou is trying to do there, it's set an example that they're not just interested in the education of their students, they're interested in education for everybody. Because, I mean, what is the incentive for them to do that other than trying to do something for all students?
Right, they don't need to recruit.
Right.
And then, so Matthew, this is a couple of questions about, you know, why is Matthew Nagato making these films? What drove him to take action? What inspired you to make these films? I think what you just said sort of tells us, but big picture, what are you trying to accomplish?
I ask myself that question all the time.
Especially at night.
Especially at night, right?
In a room when you're by yourself, yeah.
You know, Ike was a sequel to a film that I did a couple of years ago called Ola, and really, I did not set out to be a filmmaker. I didn't go to school to be a filmmaker, but I was put in a position, given an opportunity by my employer, where I have my day job, and the Department of Health, who thought that we really needed to start to change conversations in Hawaii about the health of our communities. And so as I've gone around the state and around the country sharing both of these films, it's become very evident to me that the public is hungry to hear this kind of storytelling about hope, about successful examples of people that can inspire others. And so for me, it really is about trying to continue to tell these stories, because there are so many good stories out there. And I think you know, my hardworking crew that worked on both of these films is a big part of why people are responding the way they are to the films, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do it again in the next film.
You know, let me go back to a topic we talked a little bit about, bringing back alumni. I know that at Sea Rider Productions, that's a big part of your program, isn't it?
That's a huge part. You know, they're used as mentors, and they come back and they actually teach. You know, a lot of them have, like you said, have gone off to, like, you have 3 over at Hawaii News now, and it's really important that they come back to talk to our students to say, I was sitting in that same seat once and I did it, and you can too. Their message is so strong, and they come back, and the ones who are successful, and a lot of them are successful, they come back and they share their stories, and it really gives hope to these young, still in high school, kids who think, what do I want to do with my life? Can I do it? Is it real? Is it possible? And our graduates come back and they make it real.
Yeah, and they do real good work too.
Yeah.
Zachary, a couple of questions directly for you. How can I get information about how to support your program? I think you're talking about Matt Levi's program at KPT, and it's expanding, right?
Yes, we are expanding. We have schools not only in KPT now. We have a school that's also headed in Palama Settlement. We've got a school. We try to aim for the major housings. So Palama Settlement's right there next to Mayor Wright Housing, and so we want to get those kids involved in this martial arts so that we push that discipline and that can-do attitude, really. And so we've got that program there. We also have a program in Halava Housing, Puvaimomi, and so they all host practices each on a different day of the week.
So if someone wanted to get involved, they should contact the housing office?
It would be
through the housing programs, though, right?
Right.
So really, it's for the people who are in the housing.
It is for people in the housing, but for example, the school I train for is Lavakoa Kalihi, and we are based right in KPT, but we do accept kids outside of KPT. So it's KPT and the surrounding area. So we have kids from Camp 4, the housing up the street from us. We've got kids who live in Kamehameha housing, which is near Farrington High School. And so we try to serve the greater community.
That's really impressive. Matt's a very impressive guy.
Yes.
I worked side by side with him in TV a long time ago. Let me give everybody a chance to tell their own success story here. Keith, I'll start with you. When you think about the kids that you've seen turn around the most, what are the strengths that kids have that gives them that ability, and how do you spark it?
I think it goes back to really knowing our students, and the teachers really doing a great job about building that relationship with the students. The passion is really important. There's so many stories at Waipahu and many of the public schools of how we get students focused in that area. I'm thinking about one student in particular. Always used to come into the office.
When he didn't want to be in the office?
Yeah,
it wasn't to visit. Yeah.
It wasn't to visit, but I stopped seeing him for a while. And like I said, we're academy schools, and at Waipahu, and I was walking through the arts and communication pathway classes one day, and this student had his headsets on, and he was playing the piano. And so I went over and I tapped him and I said, hey, I didn't know you played the piano. He said, oh, Mr. Asha, I don't, but I play the ukulele. And I said, but he's creating music. So I said, okay, let me take a look at that. Let me listen to what you're, and it was great stuff. And so I said, man, I was wondering where you were, because I haven't seen you for a while. But that's where he was. He was up in the Arts and Comm studio, playing the piano, but that was his passion. That was how we engaged him. And it's one student at a time. So
what happened with him? Is the story still going?
He graduated. I'm not sure where he's at now, but if he's watching, come back to Waipahu and start telling his story. But that's one of many, that how we got to get to know our students. And I think teachers at Waipahu do a really good job at that, and then how do we support them with different experiences in the community and in industry, is important.
Zachary, you said the Health Academy worked with you. Mm-hmm. What do you see, what unusual things do you see that grab kids and propel them that were kind of surprising to you?
Well, a lot of things. At the after-school program that I work for, I help to teach sciences, and so I use my biology background to help bring that kind of science curriculum to an after-school program. And the thing that I see is, for a lot of these kids that I work with, they're kids who don't go to school, or they are tardy, or they're the kids who don't really try in school, but then when they come to the after-school program, they'll get they actually seem engaged in science. You know, they thrive to learn. They actually want to learn the sciences, and then it's a lot about the distractions that happen at school, I'm thinking. And so it's
about
interesting,
focusing on
right?
school,
Right. And so it's interesting to see that in the different dynamic they are able to you know, catch on to the sciences. And so what I'll do is I'll teach a lesson, and they'll actually sit and take notes, which is really odd to see for kids who don't go to school. And then the next time they do so, because the next time is the interesting part. We do the experiment. They get to do the hands-on parts, and then that's where the real learning takes place, right?
You know, Candy Suiso, that's really what your academy does, right? And so someone walks into your academy, do they have a variety of choices as to what role they want to play? So,
well, there's something for everyone there, and I think that's the beauty of our program. You know, you might not want to be the person in front of the camera, but you can be the photographer, you can be the editor, you can be the artist, you can be the person that just creates. There's the beauty of that. There's something, we always say there's something for everyone. And I want to just echo what these two are saying about, you know, the success of, you know, what makes a student want to learn and what makes them successful really is the relationship. I think the key is relationship, connecting with their teacher or counselor or someone, an adult figure there in the school that they can connect with, that they can, you know, believe in, and, you know, someone that just says, I believe in you, you can do this. That connection will make all the difference in whether somebody will stay in school or drop out, and so many times.
Matt Nakata, in your work, I bet you that you left a lot on the cutting room floor too, right?
Yeah.
So what were the things, the commonalities of the programs that you saw that worked?
Well, I think I talked about it earlier, is the fact that you had public and private entities who decided, you know, we're going to sort of put our shields down and we're going to approach trying to solve some of these challenges and meet each other halfway on issues where we know we agree. Rather than continuing to fight on the margins where we know we're not going to agree on some of these things, let's work on the things that we do agree on. And
is that a way to get a resource into a school also?
Sure. I think Keith is a perfect one of the things I get asked all the time is, how do we make every high school like Waipahu High School?
I have three people that have asked the same question.
And, you know, the obvious answer is you just clone Keith Hayashi, but I think what Keith has done by example is not just create a culture in the school that allows for this kind of innovation, but by creating stakeholders within the community. You have business leaders, political leaders, community and church leaders. Once they understand that every future employee, every future entrepreneur, every future customer, they're all going to come out of this system, and therefore the success of Waipahu High School is the success of the Waipahu community. Once they buy in, I think resources like a magnet will get drawn in.
You know, perfect segue to this question for Mr. Hayashi. What can be done to incentivize other principals to rise above the minimum required level as you rose up? And a second question here, I have another very similar question. What is the incentive within DOE for people to do this? Does it need to be incentivized by DOE?
Well, I think as educators, we become educators to make a difference in the lives of our students. Yeah? And like I said earlier, there's a lot of great things happening in hosts of public schools across our state. And it's just like, we were fortunate that Mr. Nagata was able to tell our story. But you know, there are many, many great things happening in many, many public schools all across the state. Not only in high school, middle schools, elementary schools, every school has a story to tell.
You know, this is a question I've gotten sort of different themes, but are on the same thing. Not everyone is going to be a doctor or an engineer, and the educational system needs to offer trades training as well. How important is it for you also to engage, and what's your goal with someone who is either not interested in college or for whatever reason doesn't want to go? Let me ask you this, Candy. What's your goal for a person like that? What do you want to provide them with?
We want to provide them with, no matter what the subject is, I think the main thing that educators really want our students to leave with is what's important in life. You know, teamwork, cooperation, respect for self, respect for others, doing the right thing even when no one's watching. You know, we're lucky we use the camera and the laptops to teach that. But I think the main thing is we really want our graduates to go out there in the real world and be contributing honest citizens to our society.
And do you think that the community colleges could market themselves a little bit better? I mean, everything I hear is that they're great, you know, and a great alternative to a four-year college for trades and as well. I mean, is that something that needs to get emphasized more?
Oh, well, we're doing, at the high schools, that discussion is going on with students, and, you know, we want to be able to prepare students that if they want to go ahead and pursue a four-year degree, they're prepared. But not every student is going to want to do that. You know, they may want to go to a trade school, they may want to go to a community college, which is great. I think as long as students have options that they can pursue after high school, that's what's important. In the academies, for example, we have Industrial Engineering and Technology Academy. And students in that academy, we offer the array of industrial arts courses. So we have a metals course, metal shop, we have building construction, drafting, electronics, automotive. And students may pursue that, or they may go into engineering in that same pathway. So the realm is there, right, both sides.
And I think, Matt, you were talking a little bit about how any additional education has a payoff. So take your expectations and your goals and then push them up a notch. Is that kind of what you would like to see?
Sure, because I think, you know, graduating from high school is a key benchmark, a key metric in a child's life. Whatever happens after that, as Keith is saying, it depends on what your passion is, but graduating from high school is so important, because if we were to take 1 year's worth of high school students who drop out and get them to graduate, over the course of their lifetimes, they earn $1.5 billion more over the course of their lives than they would have if they were allowed to drop out. And so investing in programs that get kids to graduate from high school reaps benefits for the entire community down the road.
Quick question, Susan from Molokai. The movie was excellent, but it needs more airplay, rebroadcast, online access so it can be forwarded to others. How is your movie going to be seen? I mean, YouTube?
I'm very fortunate and grateful. PBS Hawaii is going to be broadcasting it over the next 3 years. If people want to have a screening in their community, I'm more than happy to come out and do that as well. And at some point, like the first film, it'll be online, but probably not for another 6 or 8 months.
And they should reach you through the Hawaii Primary Care?
They can go to the website for the movie, ekmovie.com, and we can arrange a screening there.
Okay, and I would just have to read this card because I'm proud to have gotten it. Karen from Wahiawa, thanks to Insights for all these shows about helping children have better health, feel better about themselves, and have a vision for the future. Receive assistance and self-confidence help. Thanks. And with that, we're pretty much done. We're going to come back online with you folks in a moment, but we're going to be signing off. I want to thank you all very much. That was a very interesting panel. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and great job, Matt Removie, Candy, and Keith. You guys are doing a great job, and keep it up. And as for our audience, thank you for joining us. Tonight, I'm Daryl Huff. Oh, hui ho.